You and I both know that today communication happens in the blink of an eye. In other words, very quickly. And that means mastering the art of English abbreviations isn't just a skill, it's a necessity. That's why we're diving in to essential abbreviations you need for everyday texts, emails, and conversations in English. From B2B to POC and EOD, understanding these shortcuts isn't just about keeping up. It's about standing out and communicating clearly, quickly. So whether you're trying to navigate the complex landscape of English professional communication, trying to make a solid impression in an email, or simply wanting to understand and be understood in casual texts and conversations, this video is your ultimate guide. Being in the know of these abbreviations can save time, make your communication more effective, and help you build better connections. In this lesson today, I'm going to break down each abbreviation with you, helping you understand exactly what it means and how to use it. Is it an abbreviation that is used only in writing, or can you use it in conversations as well? I'll share all the details you need to know about each one and give you example sentences we use with these abbreviations. By the end, you'll have the confidence you need to use these abbreviations effectively in your English emails, texts, and conversations. So all you need to do right now is get your notebook and a pen so that you're ready to write down these essential English abbreviations. But super fast. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Anne-Marie, an English confidence and fluency coach. Everything I do is designed to help you get the confidence you want for your life and work in English. If you'd love to get years of lessons and free resources from me, you can find all of that and more over at my Speak Confident English website. Okay, I hope you're ready to go. I have two quick things I want to share with you before we start with our first set or category of abbreviations. First, I've split this lesson up into 6 distinct categories to make it easier to navigate. Category number 1 includes abbreviations we use for time away. Category 2, feelings and opinions. Category 3, actions. Category 4, timeliness. Category 5, attention. And finally, category 6, business. And now the second tip I want to share with you. Most abbreviations in English are used primarily in writing. In other words, we might use them in texts and emails, but we don't use the abbreviated form in a conversation. Instead, we would say the complete words. For example, one abbreviation you're going to learn today is OOO. It stands for out of office. This is perfect for a quick message in an email or text, but in conversation, we don't say OOO. We simply say out of office. With the abbreviations you're going to learn today, it's important to assume the abbreviation is used in writing only. If it is also used in speaking, I will be sure to tell you so that you know which abbreviations are appropriate for your everyday conversations in English. And that leads me directly into category number 1, abbreviations we use for time away. And OOO is at the top of our list. As you've just learned, this means out of office. And again, we use it in writing, particularly in professional contexts. So it might be a quick text message to a coworker or client, or in an email. And you might see this example in an email. Anne-Marie is currently OOO, or out of office. She'll be back next week. The next one in this category is AFK, away from keyboard. This status update has definitely become more common as working from home has increased. And again, this one is typically used in writing. If, for example, you're working remotely and your team expects you to be online, but you've stepped away for a short period of time, you might set up an email responder that provides this information. Currently, AFK, be back in 20 minutes. Number 3, IAM, in a meeting. Perhaps someone is trying to get your attention with a series of text messages, so you discreetly respond, I am, period. Could I get back to you in an hour? Next, LET, leaving early today. This might be used in a text or email anytime your typical working hours are shorter than usual, or perhaps you're leaving a social event early. Perhaps, for example, a coworker sends you an email with a last-minute task, and your response might be, I'm LET. I'll be sure to do this first thing in the morning. Number 5 in this category is NA, not available. And of course, like the previous examples we've had, we could use this in a text or an email to simply let others know that at this point in time, you are not reachable or not available for some reason. For example, you may have an autoresponder that says, I'm away on vacation, not available, or NA, until, and then you might give a specific date. And our final abbreviation for this category is WREM, working remote. This is perfect when you need to let others know that you will be unexpectedly out of the office working remotely for some period of time. It might be a single day of the week. You might send a message to your team via text to let them know that you're working remotely that day. Or if you'll be away for a period of time, you might have an email available that says, due to health issues, I'll be WREM from May to June. Now let's get into category number 2, abbreviations that indicate some feeling or opinion. First in this category is AFAIK, as far as I know. This one shows up often in text messages, and you might, for example, send this message to a friend. AFAIK, Donna's not joining us for dinner. Next, FOMO. This one is unique because it's the first on our list that we use not only in writing but also in conversation. FOMO is fear of missing out. When we talk about having FOMO, it indicates some level of social anxiety. In other words, someone else is experiencing something exciting or fun or has some opportunity, and you feel that you may be missing out on that opportunity. Imagine, for example, a few of your friends bought tickets to a concert and you decided not to go. But during the concert, they're sending you little snippets, little videos, and you might say to someone else, I'm having a bit of FOMO right now. I really wish I had bought tickets to that concert. Number 3 in this category is IFYP. I feel your pain. This is a way to indicate that you empathize or understand how someone is feeling, and it's used in writing, in text messages, online forums, and so on. You might, for example, send a friend this text message. IFYP, and I'm here if you need anything. Next is IMO, in my opinion. Perhaps your daughter is sending you a series of photos as she's trying to figure out the perfect outfit for an event. So you might respond with, IMO, the dress looks better with the blue jacket. And next, MBN, must be nice. This one expresses a more negative sentiment. It expresses frustration or even envy if someone else has something that you perceive as better than what you have. For example, if you have a friend who travels constantly, someone else might be jealous of that travel and send you a text message that says, MBN, to travel so often. Now, OT. This is another one that's used both in written contexts and in spoken communication. OT stands for off topic, and it can be used to introduce that the topic of conversation is shifting into something completely different. For example, in a business meeting, you might say, this is a bit OT, but could we set aside some time to talk about the plan for next month before we forget? TBH, to be honest. Imagine a coworker sends you an email asking for your overall evaluation between 2 differing proposals, trying to understand exactly how they're different from each other. And in taking a look at them, you don't really see much of a difference between them. So you might respond with, TBH, I don't really see a difference between these proposals. Okay, we have 2 more for this particular category. Next, TMI, too much information. This is perfect to use in written and spoken contexts anytime someone shares information that you feel is a bit too personal, unnecessary, or just overboard. If, for example, a sibling recently had surgery and they're describing how they felt, what was going on, and you don't really do well with that kind of information, you might say, ooh, TMI, I don't really need to know that. And finally, we have one that might be a bit sensitive. It is WTH, what the heck. There's an alternative word we use occasionally as well. This is a softer version of what is commonly known as WTF. For various reasons, I'm not going to share what that one means here. All of these, though, present a very negative sentiment. They express some kind of anger or annoyance. For example, if you're frustrated with someone, you might say, WTH, I told Megan I needed some space and time to think. Why does she keep hassling me, or why does she keep emailing me about this? Okay, let's dive into category number 3, abbreviations we use for actions. This is a big category. We have 8 abbreviations here. And first is AR, action required. When we use this in an email, the abbreviation AR is typically followed with the specific action steps we want someone to take. For example, AR, call client before noon. Number 2, BID, break it down. In other words, make something simpler or shorter. If, for example, someone has sent you an email with a lengthy, complex process, you might respond with BID, I'm a little lost here. 3 is CTA. Here's another abbreviation that is used in both written contexts and in spoken communication. A CTA, or call to action, is telling others what you want them to do. For example, if you've ever been on a website with information that says, click here, that's a CTA. It's telling you exactly what to do. And if, for example, you're having a meeting with your marketing team, you might say this: we need to do some brainstorming on some strong CTAs for upcoming social media posts. Next is DM, direct message. Again, this one is used both in writing and in speaking, and it's a quick way to let someone know where or how you'll be contacting them. For example, I might share with someone inside my community, I'll send you a DM for more details. NNTR, no need to respond. This is perfect for quick emails or text messages when you want to let someone know that there is no action required from them. They don't need to respond to you. For example, you might send this quick message to a coworker: I'll be moving forward with the ideas we discussed in the meeting today. NNTR to the previous message. Next, TBF, to be forwarded. And as you might imagine, this is shorthand for letting someone know that information they've received by email should be forwarded to someone else. For example, you might send this to one of your team members: important upcoming dates for Q4 or fourth quarter. TBF to the entire staff. Next is one of my favorites on this list of abbreviations today: TL semicolon DR. Too long, didn't read. This is most often used in online chat forums and in lengthy text chains. For example, if you're part of a friend group who sends text messages back and forth consistently, or if you're in a WhatsApp group. Perhaps, for example, you're planning an upcoming weekend away, and there have been numerous text messages that have gone back and forth all day long, and you were in a meeting, you couldn't check your phone. At the end of the day, you look at your phone and you see 27 text messages. You might be thinking, I don't have time to read all of these. So you might respond with TL semicolon DR. Could someone just tell me where we're planning to go? And the final one for this category, TYT, take your time. As you might guess, this is perfect when you want to let others know that there's no rush in responding. For example, let's say you're trying to coordinate some plans for a future weekend with a friend, and you know she's had a busy week. You might send her this text message: I know you've had a busy week, TYT. Category 4 for our English abbreviations is focused on timeliness, and we have 4 essential abbreviations here. First is PRB. We also often use RSVP. PRB means please respond by. When we use this in written communication, it is always followed by a specific date, the deadline by which we want to receive information from someone. For example, it might be confirmation of an upcoming meeting. The abbreviation RSVP has the same meaning and is typically used in more formal contexts, for example, a wedding invitation. And PRB may be used in more casual contexts, such as quick email exchanges among coworkers. Here's a quick example. We'll need to finalize the itinerary soon. PRB Friday with your thoughts. Next is EOD, EOW, and EOM. End of day, end of week, and end of month. Again, this helps us to set deadlines with others, whether in emails, texts, and in conversation. You'll occasionally hear EOD. For example, I need this report reviewed and sent by EOD. The third abbreviation in this category is ETA, estimated time of arrival. This one is used both in written contexts and in spoken communication. Let's say you have a friend coming to visit and you just noticed that her flight is delayed. You might send her a quick text message to say, "Hey, I just saw that your flight is delayed. What's your ETA?" And lastly for this category, TBD. This one is again used in both written and spoken communication. It means to be determined or to be decided. For example, maybe you're planning an event and someone wants to know where the event will take place. What venue will you be using? If you haven't finalized those plans, you might say, the venue is still TBD. We should know soon. Okay, we have 2 more categories to go and a total of 7 more English abbreviations for quick, effective communication. Before we go there, I want to pause just for a moment and ask you to review your notes so far. Are there any abbreviations you've learned that are new for you and abbreviations that you particularly enjoy? If so, try to write a quick example sentence using that abbreviation. I'll give you an opportunity at the end of this lesson to answer some practice questions, and as always, you can share your examples with me to make sure they're accurate. And now, if you're ready to go, we'll move on to category number 5, abbreviations we use for attention. The first on our list is CC, carbon copy to. I know that this is an abbreviation you're probably familiar with from all the emailing you've done in your life. This one is so commonplace that it has become common not only in writing, but in spoken communication as well. For example, at the end of a meeting, you might say to someone, "Would you mind CCing me on that email? I'd like to keep up with any changes that are discussed." Next is FAO, for the attention of. We use this abbreviation to indicate that the information provided is intended for a specific recipient, usually a specific person, or it may be for a department. For example, after speaking to a client, you might send this email memo. Email from client, FAO, the department manager. Do not respond. And last in this category is FYI or FYR, for your information or for your reference. FYI is used in both speaking and in writing. We use this abbreviation anytime there is specific information that is important for someone to know. You might, for example, send this quick text to your team. The meeting is canceled for today, and FYI, I'll be offline for the next hour. And now we've arrived at our final category for today, the last 4 abbreviations on our list. These 4 abbreviations focus on work and business. The first is almost inescapable these days, AI. It stands for artificial intelligence. You might say to someone, "I'm interested in learning more about AI. Do you have any good resources?" If you are someone who is interested in AI and you want to learn more about how to talk about AI in English, I've got a full lesson on this topic. I'll share a link to that lesson in the notes below this video. Next is B2B, business to business. This is used in both written and spoken communication to denote a transaction that happens between businesses. If, for example, you work for a company that produces parts and you sell those parts directly to another business, that is a business-to-business transaction. And we could say, for example, manufacturers, suppliers, and wholesalers are B2B companies. Third in this category is POC, point of contact. This abbreviation is also used in written and spoken communication, and it's used to bring attention to the person you should contact if anything is required. For example, on a telephone call to a client, you might say, "I'll be away for the next few weeks. During this time, your POC will be Sharon." And finally, our last abbreviation for today is PTO, paid time off. Again, used in both written and spoken communication, we use it anytime we're referring to paid time off, for example, vacation time. You might, for example, send an email out to your team to say, "If you have any remaining PTO, please be sure to use it before the end of the fiscal year." All right, I know I've shared with you an abundance of abbreviations in English, so now let's take some time to practice. I have 3 situations for you. I want you to think carefully about the situation, review your list of abbreviations, and respond with some written message that uses the correct abbreviation in English. In this first situation, I want you to imagine how you would express frustration. You've been speaking to a business that is going to supply some decorations for an upcoming event, and the business quoted you a much higher price for these decorations than they quoted a friend of yours. How would you express that frustration? In situation number 2, you need to let others know that there's an upcoming deadline, something that needs to be done in order to successfully launch a product. How would you communicate that deadline using an abbreviation? And finally, in the third situation, you're on a text thread with several of your family members planning an upcoming vacation. How would you share your opinion on that text thread? As always, you can share your examples with me in the comments below. If you found today's lesson helpful to you, I would love to know. And you can tell me in a few very simple ways. Number 1, give this lesson a thumbs up here on YouTube. Number 2, while you're at it, you can subscribe as well so you never miss one of my Confident English lessons. And number 3, take some time to visit my Speak Confident English website. You'll find years of English lessons from me and a wealth of free resources, including my in-depth fluency training called How to Get the Confidence to Say What You Want in English. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.